In this video, I've put together some tips strategy from board game designers and publishers themselves that should help you a bit in your games. Coming up. Hi everyone, hope you're well. It's Stella from Meeple University. Welcome to my tabletop diary. Hopefully you've seen the other tips video that I've done and find them useful. Otherwise, check them out here or check the description of this video. Before I get into it, please write in the comment sections below what you think of the episodes and if there are games you want to be featured in the strategy series, or if you just want to say hi to me. If we have videos for the games featured here, I'll put links in the description so you can look at our review or how to play or playthrough video or whatever videos we have. Also, if you like to go to a specific section, I put time index in the description so you can jump ahead. So here are the tips, starting with Auztralia by the designer Martin Wallace. Hi, I'm here at TenCon 2020 with Martin Wallace. How are you today?
I'm fine, Stella. Well, apart from the cold, but you know how that feels.
I know, we both have cold, so apologise in advance if we have, a bit of a sneeze or anything like that.
There'll be a little sniff break.
Yes, yeah. I can always edit that out.
Yes.
So, we're here with the game Auztralia, and you also have got the expansions coming.
At the moment I'm here.
Work on it.
I'm testing a new 5th player expansion, which allows the 5th player to be Cthulhu.
That's
so
exciting.
They get to have fun with all these different minor Cthulhu creatures blowing up railways and assassinating people and just messing things up.
Exciting. So it'll be 1 versus many games, possibly 1 versus 4.
Yes.
Type of game.
Well, you can still play with less than 4. So you could have 1 versus 3 or 1 versus 2. I tried it with Mandy. I was over in New Zealand a couple of weeks ago, and it even kind of worked 1 versus 1. So it's not a case of, you can only use it if there are 5 players. You can use it at any player count.
Of course. Now, speaking about Auztralia, you have some tips to share the audience about how to do well, how to win it. A few tips, a few pointers.
I'm not sure if I have tips about how to win it. It's more a case of having played it a lot because of development.
Yeah, very humble.
I am kind of aware of certain patterns that if you only played it once or twice, you might not be aware of. But there are things that you can use to inform your strategy. Okay, so the main thing is, and it wasn't deliberate or anything, but if we look at the board, obviously when you set up, you can set up anywhere around the coast, and you kind of think, well, are there any real differences apart from proximity to resources? Does it make a difference? And the interesting thing is, long term, it does make a difference. In that, what's interesting is early on, places up in the north, right up here and right around here, early on, these areas are relatively quiet. It's just the way that the monsters wake up, you see. So those places early on are fairly quiet and seem fairly safe. Whereas if you're down here, I suppose kind of like in the Sydney-Melbourne region, monsters tend to wake up quite early around here. So these places can be quite dangerous early on. So you have to be prepared to fight. But then what's interesting is once you've kind of beaten, if you have survived the early rush and you've beaten these guys, this area suddenly goes really quiet because then these guys over here and over here start wake up, and they tend to go either that way or that way. And these guys, when the later guys wake up, they tend to be stronger, they're more powerful. So early on, you can be okay over here, but later on, you can be fighting some really tough monsters. So what that means is if you want to go for a farming strategy, if you want to get a lot of farms done, then actually the best place to do that is by positioning here, because once the initial rush is over, you can start building farms without worrying about them being blighted. So this area here, and I've seen it happen a number of times where the person, whoever's set up here, they can get a lot of farms down without worrying too much about protecting them. So So if you're going into the game and think, I want to earn a lot of points by killing big creatures, then you want to go here and over here.
Right, yeah.
If you want to earn a lot of points for farming, then you want to go around here.
Basically in Melbourne, yeah.
Yeah. So that's one insight into strategy. When I was developing this and showing it at conventions, I kept telling players this. It's like, as soon as possible, you have to find out who the bad guys are. And I'd see it time and time again where somebody would build railways and they'd build farms and there'd be face down old ones near them. It's like, you really need to go and find out as soon as possible who they are. Because there might be nothing there, but there might be something really horrible there. And if it wakes up and starts moving before you can do anything, you could lose your farms. And it's surprising the number of times they build a farm next to a face-down old one, and the old one would wake up, and it would be something like a Mygo, and then it would go and trash their farm. So, key thing there, and it applies in real life, you have to do reconnaissance. You have to go out there and find out what bad stuff is in the outback. So that's kind of my second insight. And then also because of the way the game works, where the face-down old ones get double victory points, is using airships, these guys here, to go and, again, scout further inland, because they've got a range of 4, so they can actually move a long way from your railhead. So it's like, go find out later on in the game when you can deal with something bad there, because once you wake something up, it will start moving. So you don't want to do it too early on, because you might wake up something really powerful and you don't have the forces to deal with it. But later on in the game, these are really good either for waking stuff up so it's reducing the old one's points, or just to annoy other players by waking up stuff near them so they have to deal with it. And it's also good for what I call sniping, because if people share in a kill, they share the points. You can use your little airship, go to a point of damage, and then let somebody else do all the hard work of killing it, and then you get half the points.
Some good tips there?
Yeah, so...
Some good tips there?
Something, hopefully so. So
we're going to give it a go next time so we can actually win the game next time.
That... It's sometimes, certainly on a lower play count, it can be hard, very tough against old ones. Tends to be easier the more players. If you're playing a 4-player game, it gets a lot easier. I think if you're playing a 4-player game, reasonably competent players should mean you beat the old ones. And again, that should inform your strategy, because if you know you're going to beat them, you need to be thinking about farms, because that's where you're going to get a lot of your points from.
The farming strategy,
yeah.
I always get that destroyed as well.
Yeah, well, that's probably because you're not doing reconnaissance.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yes.
That's the key.
Okay.
Cool, well, thank you so much for that. Hopefully that's
pleasure.
been useful as well.
Yeah.
So, Martin Wallace, Stella, Meeple University, signing out from CameCon.
I want to say now some few words to it and want to introduce my assistant Laura. She will present me the new game board. And as you can see here, we changed Kansas and the minus point increased. So whereas in earlier games, in the base game, people delivered maybe 3 times, they did not mind the minus points. And now I think it's not that good choice to deliver more than 1 time here. I even prefer to make another first delivery, maybe Chicago, because Chicago only needs 6 delivery points. That's not much. You can do this in the first round. And then you have access here up to Denver, which costs you 8 delivery points. And the good thing here is you can get rid of a black disc here in the maybe second round of the game. Yeah, in your second delivery you can get rid of a black disc here and you can increase your hand size there. So that's a nice, I think, opening for Great Western Trail. Furthermore, you have a connection here to the east, and I also want to point out this interesting spot where you can deliver a black disc. It costs you a lot of money, but also gives you a lot of points. And you can get here maybe an interesting station master tile. So this is another good strategy for your beginning. So thank you very much for looking this video, for your interest in this expansion, and hope to see you again. Bye!
Now, for Abomination, the designer Dan has no time to film himself, so he has kindly gave me some written tips and strategy that I will read myself here. So here they are. I'll try my best to pass his tips. Number 1. Invest in reputation early to gain access to free stage 1 and 2 cadavers at the hospital, as well as to increase and upgrade your workers. Having 4 actions instead of 3 each round is a big advantage, and having more scientists will open up the game space. But don't forget you can use the hospital thief to gain early access to those cadavers until your reputation is high enough to go in person. Number 2. You only get 1 throw the switch action per round, so get some laden jars and roll shock dice as early as possible to give yourself as many opportunities as possible to animate your creation and hopefully benefit from a lightning storm or 2 along the way to save actions. Number 3. Since dice can be unforgiving, here are some added suggestions when doing so. Invest in research cards to help mitigate the rolls. To be conservative, roll less dice than you have parts on the table unless you have the cards that allow you to avoid damage. Increase your expertise to earn blue die upgrade as soon as possible. House rule it. Use the added dice mitigation and scoring rules in the Igor variant. Number 4. To make the most of your resources and not waste good blood, strive to both start and complete a monster part, not necessarily the same one, in a single lab phase. Remember that each time you start or complete a part, you earn 1 expertise immediately, so you can chain these builds together and maximize your lab efficiency. Number 5. Don't be afraid to lose some humanity early on to get the materials you need. You can focus on building it back later in the game once your monster is fully constructed. Number 6. Don't sleep on first player. If you are last or next to last in turn order, consider using your last action to snap it, if it's still available. You'll get the place that Meeple will get, so you don't lose an action. Aside from getting first dibs on locations in the next round, you're more likely to get bumped for free francs. You'll be in the driver's seat when any encounters occur, and you'll also earn the tiebreaker when competing for bonus objectives. Not bad for a free action on your last turn. Number 7. The small penalty in points for using animal parts is far outweighed by the cheap cost, usually free, and versatility. You can build an entire monster, muscle and skin, out of just animal parts and still only lose a maximum of 16 points. If that gets your creature up and barking before everyone else, it might just be worth it. And then also gave us some tips to speed up your game, which is, number 1, play the Igor variant. It shortens the rounds from 12 to 8, starts you off nicely with a couple of monster parts, boosted stats, and a pair of charge-laden jars. Number 2, after one player places at a location in Paris or their lab, the next player can take their turn without waiting for that player to resolve the location. Don't sit and watch players sorted through cadavers cards and count out cubes. Number 3, the lab phase is meant to be simultaneous. Unless you don't trust the other players not to cheat or make mistakes, everyone should be working on their monsters at the same time. Number 4, if one or more players do not have lab business to attend to, they can be resetting the board while the other players work on their monsters. And that's teamwork. So thanks guys for the tips. Well, hopefully these tips are useful. If you've discovered tips for these board games yourself, please feel free to write in the comment sections below if you like, and watch out for the next episodes. If you enjoyed this video, please help us by hitting the like button. You can subscribe to us and hit the bell so you'll be notified of our next videos, including the next in the board game series. Check me out on Instagram for my board game journeys, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching guys, and have a good day!